Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's number one underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Thank you for listening. My name is Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21. I'm a mixed martial arts journalist. I currently contribute to bjpen.com, Low Kick MMA, CageSidePress.com. You could find my work there as well as my YouTube channel at aka Strauss21. And of course, the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts podcast that you are listening to right now. Here is my latest interview. I hope you enjoy it. I want to welcome back to the show boxing coach, mixed martial arts coach. He's coached Frank Mir and Julian, the one and only Angelo Reyes. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Congratulations on all. Man, you're out there. I'm seeing Mike Strauss everywhere. Man, you're going to be an ESPN guy one of these days or something, man. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words, man. Especially coming from someone like yourself, man. I know you are a boxing coach, striking coach, and what have you been up to, man?
So my last assignment, I did Fedor versus Mir. That was in Chicago. And then this past summer, I just, again, my son, everybody who knows me, and if you follow my Instagram, you notice that I'm always talking about congenital heart defect because my son was born with congenital heart defect. And I spent the entire summer with him. I just really wanted to focus on that. He's doing well. He's 14 years old now, freshman in high school. I just was around the congenital heart defect community and just doing more for that cause. I just think a lot of people aren't aware about the cases that 1 in 100 children are actually born with congenital heart defect. And I just want to make sure everywhere I go and anywhere that I do, I keep telling these stories because people have to know, Mike. It's one of these things where everybody should know that this is a terrible disease that happens in everywhere in the world. It kills more children than all the cancers combined. In fact, Shaquille O'Neal's kid just got diagnosed, and he was born with it, and now they have to deal with this. He has to have the whole open heart surgery and everything. I was doing that, and then obviously school starts. I brought him back to school, and then I'm back in it. I don't want to say who I'm going to be working with as of right now, but just keep paying attention to what may happen before the year's over, and then you'll see me out there. I'm definitely still very active within the boxing and the MMA community.
Very cool, man, and that's so awesome what you're doing. I never told you this, but my son, he was born with congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and
wow,
yeah, man, I know how time consuming and just how much it weighs on you as a parent, brother. Believe me, I know. And what you're doing that's so awesome, bringing awareness to things like that, because as you said, it's such an important thing that I think people take for granted. So that's awesome, man. Keep doing that stuff. We got a lot.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's what it's all about after all, right? Kids, family,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. More important than all of this stuff, I'll tell you that. But we're gonna have a fun show, everyone. Listen to this one because we're gonna talk UFC 229.
For sure. We got Conor McGregor returning, the greatest of all time. Well, that's how they're billing him against against the lightweight Dagestani wrecking machine, 26-0 Khabib Nurmagomedov. Let's just get right into it, man. I mean, they're calling it the biggest fight in mixed martial arts history. Does it feel like it to you? Because you're right in the middle of the action there in Vegas.
Yeah, look, it's definitely amazing. You have to understand. I mean, from seeing Mayweather Pacquiao to being there for Mayweather Canelo to being there for the Pacquiao Marquez events. I mean, when we say the biggest event, right? I definitely think it's a huge event. But It feels good. It feels strong, and I definitely appreciate the MMA community and definitely how much everyone's getting involved. I think Conor's really into it right now, coming back from being losing his boxing match with Floyd Mayweather. I don't quite know, though, to be truthful, just based on my experience, if it's right up there with like a Ricky Hatton feel yet. Because Ricky Hatton, when he would come to Vegas, it was insane, man. It was like massively insane. Or even Canelo, when he fought Mayweather. I mean, they packed the arena just for the weigh-ins of Mayweather Canelo. So within that sense, I would say that this probably to date, based on their numbers, it's going to become the biggest UFC event ever. The fight is definitely exciting. But it's exciting. It's cool. It's not Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko. I'll put it to you that way. There's not 90,000 people here, all going to fill out an arena for this one fight. But this card, I got to tell you, brother, this is a solid card.
It is.
Like from the prelims on Fight Pass to the prelims that are free on Fox Sports 1 to this main card, which we're going to get into. Man, they stacked this bad boy. There's not going to be any upset fans after UFC 229. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, they definitely. Definitely shouldn't be, man. So I guess the way we'll do it is we'll start at the main event. We'll go down, and then if we have time at the end, we'll kind of each give like a sleeper pick, a fight that's not on the main card for people to look out for.
Oh, sounds good. So let's start with then, I guess, Khabib versus Conor McGregor. What did you call him? The greatest? You said Conor? Because I would tend to say that at this point we could argue that actually Daniel Cormier would be right up there, since he just became both the light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of the world, and Daniel Cormier's never lost in the heavyweight division in any fights that he's done so far. So it's hard to say if Conor is the best. He's definitely the most talked about, right? We can agree with that.
Oh,
I haven't seen Daniel
is.
Cormier on a Budweiser commercial yet, and I haven't seen Daniel Cormier come out with a Daniel Cormier beer or anything like that. Everybody's buying proper 12 whiskey right now, right?
Some people are buying it just to pour it down the drain. Have you seen that on Twitter?
No, I haven't, but I can believe it. Well, I'm sure Conor doesn't care as long as you're buying it.
Exactly,
he doesn't
right?
care whether you pour it down the drain or use it for a bathtub.
Yeah, once you bought it, you're not hurting him.
That's right. I'll tell you what makes this fight so interesting is so many people from when Conor first came into the UFC, and of course, it's easy to bring up the whole Chad Mendes scenario, right? But even with the Nate Diaz fight, everybody always sits there and they're always talking about, oh man, Conor's going to get killed. He can't wrestle. Conor's going to get killed. And this is one of those fights to me where when you look at it, as easy as it is to say, oh man, 26-0, Khabib is going to destroy Conor, I can honestly tell you that I don't know. I mean, I'm pulling for Khabib because, Javier Mendez is a friend of mine and I've gotten a chance to meet Khabib. So that's personal. But statistically, I don't know. This is a 50-50 fight, my friend. I mean, like, Conor McGregor is a great MMA striker. He's extremely accurate. His resume shows he's beaten quality opponents and have put them away. I mean, I didn't think I actually picked against him on the Aldo fight. He knocked Aldo out in 13 seconds.
Man, yeah, incredible.
I felt like Eddie Alvarez was going to do much better than the way the fight ended out. So it's one of these things where if you doubt Conor McGregor, it almost sways to him. It almost like if the more you doubt him, then the more he's able to come out on a big stage like this. And seeing him out there, seeing how relaxed he is, he's really enjoying the moment. I don't know. I feel like he's very calm. He's very calm, especially for somebody who just did another sport to come back to this sport and is fighting quite arguably. I mean, we could argue, right, that in terms of a talent, for sure, Habib might be pound for pound the best, of all the different divisions right now. I was there for the Edson Barboza fight, and man, he destroyed Edson, and Edson's amazing. But if that's your barometer to see what Habib will do to a striker, a really great striker, man, then it's just excitement to know what could happen. So I'll ask you, Mike, like, which way are you leaning? Have you thought about this? Are you leaning, Connor? What are you thinking?
Well, if people know me or follow my work, they probably know I'm not a Conor McGregor fan. Never have been. As you said, he's a phenomenal striker. He's a good striker in mixed martial arts. I think he's overrated. I do. I think he's overrated big time.
Okay.
I actually agree with what you said earlier about DC being the best ever. I've been on that bandwagon for probably about a year and a half, and I'll argue that to my grave. DC is the greatest. But getting back to this here, if this fight would have happened 2 years ago, even a year ago, before Khabib's last two fights, I would have said Khabib all day. This isn't even close. Get out of here. But those last two performances from Michael Johnson, I'm sorry, not his last two, but the Michael Johnson fight before the Barbosa fight showed a big vulnerability in his stand-up game. And then again, when he fought Iaquinta really showed some vulnerability in Khabib's stand-up. And the one thing that we know Conor can do, he can crack. And if he catches Khabib on the chin, it's lights out. It's lights out. Do I think he can do it? I do. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to
Wow.
I think it's probably...
And this is coming from a guy who's actually not a fan of Conor McGregor.
Oh,
wow.
I don't... Listen, I probably, as a journalist, I'm not really supposed to play favorites. I'm pulling for Khabib. I want Khabib to win this fight. Just because I don't like a lot of the things personally, morally, what he stands for, Conor McGregor. But, other than that, I mean, could Khabib take him down and wrestle him for 5 rounds? He could do that. But I think Conor, if you give him that much time, all he needs to land is one shot, and I think he's going to do it, man. I do.
Wow. All right. I like it. I like the bold prediction. Okay. Well, like I told you, I mean, I'm not going to pick against my friend. And but even with that, I'm predicting that Habib, this will be the moment that everybody can't take away from Habib, where if you criticize him for the Iaquinta fight, or you want to criticize him for the Michael Johnson fight, I believe that what's been great about Habib is he's been a growing talent. He has been extremely well developed by his head coach, Javier Mendez. Mm-hmm. Javier is one of the greatest coaches out there right now, in my opinion. He really cares for his fighters, and
he's underrated.
Him and Habib,
Javier's very underrated.
I don't know if he's underrated more than Javier, at least for me, knowing him since my amateur USA boxing days, when I used to take my amateur fighters to go all the way down there in AKA. I mean, I'm talking early 2000s here, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like Javier is a humble person. He's such a humble person that he doesn't really need to brag about his accomplishments,
Yeah, good point.
So I don't know that he's underrated more than he's just humble. I mean, a lot of, I feel like if you're a coach and you have to flex, then you're probably not really doing the type of job that Javier Mendez does. Mm-hmm. I think Javier Mendez just gets in there, he just grinds it, and whatever comes out comes out. And again, we don't have to argue that Cormier's come out of that gym, right?
Yeah.
Habib's come out of that gym, but so many names have come out of the AKA gym in San Jose that I believe that's on this particular point. I'm not saying that John Kavanagh is not a good coach, and I'm not saying that Conor McGregor's coaching staff aren't good coaches. Again, you have to respect what Conor has done up to this point, and he has had those coaches, so you have to respect them. But if we're just talking strategy and we're just talking MMA mind for MMA mind, I will always put my money on Javier Mendez more than I would put it on a lot of other coaching staff. And again, the Cormier fight against Miocic proves that. How many people did you hear? Oh, I don't know, man. Miocic. And what did Cormier end up doing?
I
Right?
actually predicted DC to smoke him.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Well, you're one of the people
But you're right, man. Most people were like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Do you remember what Daniel Cormier did to the better heavyweights? In my opinion, better heavyweights were in the Strikeforce Grand Prix, and he ran through that. What do you mean?
Yeah,
what do you mean you don't know?
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, no. Well, again, and this is what I mean about what Khabib is. I know a lot of people point to that last fight with Iaquinta, but from what I understand, wasn't there supposed to be another opponent before Iaquinta?
It was a mess. The whole evening was a mess. He was supposed to have 3 different opponents. Yeah, so of course that factors into it massively.
At any given time, when a fighter is getting ready for someone else, and there's all this confusion, and you have a fighter and someone like Khabib who chooses not to pull out of a fight, and in fact says, whatever, man, just put whoever in front of me. I don't care. I'll just fight whoever. I think if anything, what people should pull from in the Iaquinta fight is the improvements Khabib has made. Not the holes everybody keeps talking about, but the improvements Khabib has actually made from the Michael Johnson fight to the Edson Barboza fight. And when we want to talk about a great striker, and dude, at that division, Edson Barboza is still the man. I mean, if you watch Edson Barboza versus Conor McGregor, I'd pay for that show because I know someone's going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. That's a striker show. And that's what I'm talking about is Khabib, you saw what he did to Edson. And I was there for the fight. And even though the scorecards don't reflect how actually close that fight was in the sense of the ticking time bomb that Edson Barboza could have pulled off, I almost feel like Khabib isn't getting enough credit for how good the game planning was in diffusing that time bomb that is Edson Barboza. Mm-hmm. And then everybody's now just, they're doing like it's the same thing that always happens in all combat sports, right? You're only as good as your last fight. So then everybody always talks about, I don't know, man, Khabib had these holes against Al Iaquinta. Well, all right, if we're calling a spade, and he had X amount of weeks to train for Al Iaquinta, I don't think the fight would have ended up that way anyways. I think that you would have probably seen something more similar to what he did to Edson Barboza. Mm-hmm. But having said that, there were a lot of great things that I saw Khabib actually do. There are even times where I was like, wow, is Khabib just standing up right here and using his jab just because he feels like this is a sparring match and he kind of wants to get his rounds in so that he could use his jabs more. And I really give a lot of that credit to the team there that Khabib has with his father and more so with Javier Mendez and how good of a coach he is. And I think that's where the credit isn't being given. I think that people are forgetting, guys, Javier Mendez is an MMA coach. He has this awesome fighter in Khabib. You're kind of missing it right here. That's what everybody should talk about is how good that tandem has been. It's like the Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao combination during their peak times, Mm-hmm. So I think Conor, and he is amazing. And like I said earlier when we started talking, it's close. It's 50-50. But I honestly believe that unless Conor does something like he did against Jose Aldo, I think Khabib ends up doing to Conor what he did to Edson Barboza. And in my opinion, the difference is, and this is just me, again, I'm being respectful, but Conor to me in the later rounds tend to fade.
Oh yeah.
And that's just been evident in his last fights. And when you have someone like Khabib who's a monster, if he gets you like the juggernaut that he is in the first round, it'll only get worse from there. So however Conor felt in the Chad Mendes fight, it will not be like that. I don't believe that Conor will all of a sudden be able to get up and with Khabib being tired, Conor will be able to knock him out. maybe luck of the Irish, maybe proper 12 will give him some strength. Who knows? But in all honesty, I feel like as 50-50 as it is, I'm gonna say it's gonna be Habib, and it's gonna be Habib by a massive beating that will end. If it goes the way I think it will, and I think that because it's a 5-round fight, unlike the Edson Barboza fight, I don't think a referee will continue to let Conor just keep taking it round after round after round like that. Yeah. But we'll see, man. We'll see. That's why we're all paying for it.
It sure
we'll
is.
See.
Who do you like in the co-main event, man? Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis. This is interesting. Tony Ferguson, he's won 19 of his last 20 fights. That's ridiculous. And we were talking a little bit before we started recording. He was wrongfully stripped of the belt for no reason other than doing promotion for the UFC. He's fighting a guy in Anthony Pettis, man, who has alternated his last few wins and losses, but he looked tremendous in that Michael Chiesa victory. This is a head-scratcher.
Yeah, no. And by the way, this could have been a main event fight.
Absolutely.
Also, because this is very exciting. I like Tony Ferguson a lot. I got to work with Tony Ferguson a little bit a few years back, and I know one of the people in his camp is a good friend of mine, Rashad Holloway, who works with Tony on his boxing. Rashad was coming out of the Wildcard gym also as a fighter, and I like Tony a lot. So personally, it's hard for me to root against Tony because I just like him.
I do too.
So
yeah.
I'm obviously rooting for Tony Ferguson. But you're absolutely right, man. I've always been a big fan of Anthony Pettis. His striking has always been amazing. I think that people don't talk enough about his submission skills. And that Chiesa fight, woo, man, that was awesome to see. To see Showtime finish it the way he did. That was fantastic. So this is one of those fights where what's intriguing to me is this is the year layoff comeback of Tony Ferguson. So Tony Ferguson doesn't get a warm-up bout or a tune-up bout. He basically gets a world title contender, in a former world champion on his comeback fight. And I don't understand why he was stripped, man. I don't want to get into too much of the politics of it, but I'm not understanding any of this. I don't understand why Nico Montano got stripped. I don't understand why Tony Ferguson got stripped. I mean, for crying out loud, if you tripped on a wire doing a promotion for your own company, and then the injury from that tripping on the wire is the reason why you're no longer the champ, none of it makes sense to me, man. So I agree with you on that. But this one can go either way. They both are very good submissions. If we're going to favor striking, I guess the easy thing to say is, well, Pettis has been proven to be the better striker, which factually that would be true. I just feel like Tony's maybe a little underrated in his striking. I think that he's very creative in the way he uses his boxing and the striking technique for MMA. He's very, very free flowing. But his grappling ability is sick, man. It's amazing. So, we saw. He won the belt submitting a younger Kevin Lee, and Kevin Lee is an amazing fighter himself. So, and Tony submitted him. So I can see something like that. I could definitely see this as a finish. I don't think Ferguson Pettis will go the distance. I think we're going to see an exciting finish of some sort, some kind of a submission or some even striking. I think something really cool is going to happen in that fight. I'm pulling for Ferguson on this one. So how about you? Who do you think is going to win on this one?
I'm a big fan of Ferguson too. Like I said, man, he's won 19 of 20 fights. That's incredible, and I don't think he should have been stripped. Anthony Pettis, he looked something about that last fight. He looked like the old Showtime again, and even as you said in the Poirier fight, even though he lost, he looked good. He never really looks bad, but he looks like he's back to that old Showtime. The thing that really caught me off guard about this is for as long as Showtime's been around, right? He's 31 years old, and Ferguson is 34. He's coming off this injury, and I don't know what I'm going to get, so I'm going with Anthony Pettis.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. That is wow. So far, you and me are like we're gonna end up doing an after call here where one of us is gonna say, "I told you so."
Right. What about
So,
the Ovince St. Preux and Dominic Reyes fight? This is one that 62% of the people, according to Tapology, are picking Dominic Reyes right now.
yeah, and actually, you know what? That shocks me a little bit because OSP, man, we've seen him do some pretty awesome stuff already as a UFC veteran, and then he's got that St. Preux choke, the Von Flute choke, but they call it the St. Preux choke, and he's coming off of a great submission over Tyson Pedro, and so I get it. I get that Dominic Reyes is 9-0, and that he's this rising talent, but I don't think Dominic's met anyone like OSP yet. So this is definitely an interesting test. Believe me, man, I love the Reyes name. I do. but I'm actually, if I'm going to pull for someone, I'm pulling for OSP on this one. Not only because he obviously has the more experience, and he's the seasoned veteran out of the two. He's strong at this division, and as a submission artist, he's very dangerous. But I also know his wrestling coach, John Laboranti, and I just don't like going against my friends. You know what I mean? It's hard for me.
For sure.
So I'm pulling for St. Preux. But here's another one. Like we just talked about 3 fights where if you want to pay the money, it's worth it just for those 3.
Exactly.
Just for those 3 alone, go ahead and pay for the money, man. This is going to be an amazing card.
Yeah, St. Preux's number 7 right now. Reyes is at 12, which, the kid's had 3 fights in the UFC. He's looked good in all of them. This is an interesting fight because Ovince St. Preux, I'll be honest with you, at times he hasn't looked very good. And at other times he's looked pretty good. But you never know what you're going to get with him. But honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head, Angelo. I do. This is a big jump in competition for Reyes. And I don't think he's going to be able to deal with Ovince St. Preux. He's a veteran, and I think OSP is going to get the job done. We agree.
All right, we agree on this one. Finally, you're swinging. Let's see if you'll agree with me on this next one. Also, and keep that trend.
Derek Lewis and Alexander Volkov, the only heavyweight fight of the night.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, obviously St. Preux and Reyes are big boys, but yes, true. You're right. These are even bigger boys that we're looking at, and I like Derek Lewis. I had a chance to meet Derek Lewis a few times. I know his coach. They have a very close bond, and Derek Lewis is a real deal sort of fighter for me. Win, lose, draw. He's just going to go out there and he's going to do what he does. This Volkov fight, to me, is very, very, very interesting. Volkov, I know, is more of a technical striker, right? And is this the first time he's fighting in the United States? Is this the first time Volkov's coming over here, or at least for the UFC? Is this the first fight that he's coming here to Vegas for?
I don't know if this is the first time this might be the first time he's fighting in Vegas. Let me look.
Okay, because it's a big stage. I mean, this is
huge.
This is a massive stage, and if you're coming from a different country, I mean, again with your own internal team having to come here, I don't know if that's all going to affect them. Versus for Derek Lewis, man, this is just par for the course. He's used to this.
Yeah. When Volkov fought Roy Nelson, that was in Kansas City.
You're right. Okay. So yeah. So and again, man, this is a massive card. This is a chance for Volkov to really, push himself up, to make himself go up in terms of his name value and his global presence to win a fight like this. But again, man, I don't like not pulling for people that I know, and I know Derek Lewis and his coach. So I got to go Derek Lewis on this one. I know that everybody was really disappointed with the Ngannou fight, but I got to tell you, Mike, I don't believe that was Derek Lewis's fault. I really believe that Ngannou just, did not engage. And it's very difficult to fight any fights when the opponent isn't willing to engage with you. Now, I understand why Ngannou didn't want to engage with Derek Lewis, because what Derek Lewis does is knock you out.
Exactly.
So, you know, like I get it, but it's almost like, you know, what should have been this explosive, amazing fight ended up being two fighters in a stylistic matchup that ended up not having fireworks. And I realized that most people would say, well, 50% of that problem was Derek Lewis. In seeing that fight, I honestly disagree. I think that the reason why the fight ended up the way it ended up is because Derek Lewis fights the way he fights, and Ngannou planned to not get hit by Derek Lewis, and that's what that's why it turned into a very boring exercise. But other than that, man, Derek Lewis is a fun fighter, win, lose, or draw, and I think this is one of those ones where I can't see this going the distance either. I feel I'm going to say Derek Lewis, and I'm going to say Derek Lewis for a massive knockout, and then everybody's going to fall in love with Derek Lewis again. And what the heck, man, Derek Lewis is a good dude. So I hope Derek gets on a mic and says, you know who I want to fight next? I want to fight Brock Lesnar. And let's see something fun like that. You know, Derek Lewis versus Brock Lesnar or something, or something like that. So that's me. I'm picking Derek Lewis on this one.
That would be fun, man. Derek Lewis and Brock Lesnar. I'm a big Derek Lewis fan. I think he is one of the nicest and probably the most down to earth, regular person that there is in the entire sport. Just a real dude, just a real guy, and a fan favorite, man. You know, he every time he's in there, he gives it to you. And no, you can't. Anybody who blames Derek Lewis solely for that Francis Ngannou fight doesn't understand the sport. Is he partially to blame for it? Sure, he's got to shoulder some portion of it, but nowhere near the 50%. More like 10 or 15%, in my opinion. But yeah. But that being said, you know, Derek Lewis is he's amazing because when you think he's down and out, he catches like a second and a third wind, and he doesn't lose his power. He's just as powerful in the fourth round as he is in round one. Volkov is interesting, man, because we saw it in the Verdum fight. He's very technical, and when he plots forward, he doesn't look like he's technical in his movement, but he is, and he's deceiving in that way. And over time, he has a very good jab, and he's got incredible range, and he knows how to use it. And I think do you remember years ago when Stefan Struve was coming up? And they're like, man, if this kid...
and he knocked Stefan Struve out.
Cold.
You know.
But the thing with Stefan Struve was they were always like, man, if this kid could develop his hands, he's got the range. Well, that's basically what Volkov is. He's like 6'8" or 6'8" or something like that, but he's got really good hands, and I think he's going to figure out a way to get it done. I think he's going to somehow beat Derek Lewis. Maybe a KO.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go again, going against me, man.
It's crazy.
No, okay, I definitely can see exactly what you're talking about. It. And again, we can't take away the fact that he did just beat the former champion in Fabricio Verdum. And he did it in, I think, what was it? Wasn't that like a knockout bonus or something, or a fight of the night bonus?
Yeah, it was an incredible
like that
fight
for Volkov.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, no, okay, so we split on this one, but we definitely agree that someone's getting knocked out on this fight. It's not going to be one of those ones that looked like the Derek Lewis and Ngannou fight. I agree with you. I believe that Volkov is more technical, and he knows how to use his striking very well. That's a really great comparison, Mike, about he's basically like what Stefan Struve, could have been scenario. So, yeah, I don't believe that he's going to not try to engage with Derek Lewis. I think he's going to most likely try to use his technical striking to set up some traps. I just feel like Derek Lewis has a really good chin, and
He does.
and he's just got that bomb, man. He's got that bomb. So,
Make no mistake.
Yeah, okay, cool,
it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if Derek Lewis is down and out on his luck and somehow finds it in him to KO him in the third round. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit because that's what Derek does. But yeah, I'm just gonna go with Volkov just because I think if you force me to pick, I'm gonna say him. But again, I'm a big Derek Lewis fan. How about the main card gets kicked off with Michelle Waterson and Felice Herrig? This fight's kind of not getting a lot of talk.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm surprised because I like this fight. I think it's
a fun fight.
Again, this just it just goes to show you how much talent there is in the female division. Across the board in every organization, man, from Bellator to the UFC. I mean, the women power. this is gonna be fun. This is a fun match. And for the fans that don't know, both of these ladies have known of each other since way back in the day when they had the Oxygen Network showing this documentary on these ladies going to Thailand and fighting Muay Thai, and that's called Fight Girls. So if you guys don't know, look it up. Michelle Waterson was a part of that Fight Girls series for Oxygen, and so was Felice Herrig. So both of these ladies have a ton of experience. They have been around. These are veteran fighters. This isn't like, I know they look very attractive and because they're small, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody might look at them and think, oh, look at the two cute fighters. But believe me, guys, there's nothing cute about the way both of these ladies fight. I mean, these ladies like to finish and they like to bang it out. I go back to, Michelle was really getting a lot of momentum her way, finding her style. And then she ends up submitting Paige Van Zandt in Sacramento, at the end of the year in 2016. And then it vaults her to have that Rose Namajunas fight. She loses to Rose Namajunas by submission. And then she has that Tisha Torres fight that, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of, goes to decision for Tisha. And then we see that Courtney Casey fight most recently in April this year. And remember how that was kind of a split decision too. And I don't know if Waterson gets enough credit for the type of opposition and opponents that she's been fighting, this entire time. Mm-hmm. So, having said that, I want to give the credit to Michelle Waterson. Some people might say, oh, Coach Angelo Saindak is Michelle Waterson's Asian. He's Asian, so he's keeping it Asian. But that's not it. I actually really like Felice Herrig also, and I really respect her also. I just I just feel like Michelle Waterson's been in some pretty rough competition. Now again, when you look at Felice Herrig, she's had that the rough competition also. She's a seasoned veteran. So it's almost like I'm looking at two equally matched, exciting, engaging fighters who know how to fight in the sport of MMA. So if this turns grappling, you're going to see a good grappling match. If this turns striking, you'll see a good striking match. If you see kicking, you're going to see good kicks. If you see punching, you're going to see good punches. Again, man, this was such a great card. Mick Maynard and John Shelby really did a hell of a job putting this whole card together. So if I'm going to choose, I'm choosing my Asian sister, Michelle Waterson, man, on this one, man. I'm going Team Karate Hottie. So, but how about you? You're probably going to disagree with me. Well, go ahead. Tell me what you think.
Watterson is tremendous, right? The Karate Hottie, as you said, Felice Herrig, little bulldog. Watterson's coming off a win over Courtney Casey, as you mentioned, and you mentioned she doesn't get the credit about how tough she is. And let me tell you, man, Courtney Casey is probably the toughest cookie in the world, and if you could get a win over her, you're tough. So Michelle Waterson is every bit as tough as Felice Herrig, no doubt, going into this one. Felice Herrig, she's a local product here from Illinois. She's a longtime Team Curran product. Of course, I'm out of Chicago, so there's strong ties there with Felice. I remember watching her come up, man, and you want to talk about just a phenomenal Thai striker. I mean, both women are good, but I mean, the Karate Hottie is obviously more of a karate style striker, and Felice Herrig is very strong with the Muay Thai style. But as you mentioned, both women can grapple too. Felice Herrig, I think she's probably a little bit better at jiu-jitsu. However, I think Waterson is sneakier, and I think she can land more submissions because she's sneakier. I think Waterson has more ways to win this fight. I think Waterson wins.
Oh, you're agreeing. Okay, all right. Join the Asian club, Mike.
I got to. I think she has more.
Going against your hometown girl, Felice Herrig. Okay.
I just think Waterson has more ways to win the fight.
Yeah, no, you know what? And again, this is what makes you also really good at your job as a journalist, because people do forget that Michelle Waterson won the Invicta title off of a sneaky submission, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is very sneaky in that sense. And yeah, my background being karate before having that chance to be mentored by Freddie Roach in the boxing world. But I agree, man. That karate style with that sneaky submission, she's sort of like a 115 version of Anthony Pettis in a way,
exactly.
And again, this is not us disrespecting Felice Herrig in any way. I thought that Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight was very close, on her last outing. And she beat Courtney Casey also in a very close fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to pick against Felice. I definitely agree with you on that. It's very hard to pick against Felice, and I 100% agree with you on her Muay Thai is very good. She beat Justin Kish.
Yeah,
you remember?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was in Chicago, but I remember she beat Justin Kish. She beat Alexa Grasso, and remember how everybody was talking about, Alexa Grasso is an amazing striker coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And Felice beat her.
Convincingly.
And then when we talk about again submission wise, remember Felice Herrig submitted Kylan Curran.
Mm-hmm.
I think that fight was in Chicago. And again, both of these ladies have so similar and kind of intertwined storylines. They both lost. Felice. They both were in the Fight Girl series, right? They've been around for a long time. They both fought Paige Van Zandt. They both fought Courtney Casey. And this is what I mean about when I started and I said there are so much talent in the female divisions across the board that I'm just happy to see that. I'm just happy to see that on the biggest card of the UFC, certainly the biggest card this year in the UFC. We are starting this pay-per-view off with these two fantastic women that represent our sport of MMA so well. So,
for sure.
So yeah, Team Karate Hottie, man. Team Karate Hottie on this one.
All day. So, okay, that's the main card. Real quick here, man, let's look at the prelims here. Let you pick a fight and I'll pick a fight. Just, something that maybe the average person is not kind of thinking about, but a fight that you think could steal the show.
Yeah, no, this one, okay, so the prelims, it's free, guys. So turn on Fox Sports 1, starts at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're in Vegas or West Coast, definitely watch this. Damn, this is a good fight. We got Holtzman Patrick, we have Vlad Evinger,
Mm-hmm.
Luque Turner, Pettis Formiga. Oh, man, but I honestly believe the sleeper match on this is Jalen Turner versus Vicente Luque.
Great fight.
Great fight. And I think a lot of times too, when a card like this gets put together, a lot of times maybe we don't talk about this, but the people behind the scenes, the really good managers who really pull for their fighters, are also a huge help to putting a great fight card like this together. And, very good friend of mine, Jason House, who, as you know, is the CEO of Iridium Sports Agency. He has some of the best talents coming out of the MMA world right now. I mean, across the board from any organization, whether it's Bellator, PFL, the UFC. I mean, Jason House is on it, man. And, he's got talents like Eric Anders. We just watched Leah Letson in the TUF this Wednesday, right? She had that victory over on the TUF show.
She's tremendous.
And that's one of his talents. And what I really like about what Jason House does is he has a great eye for talent. Not to say that all the other managers don't, but he gets people like an Eric Anders. And then maybe you don't think Eric Anders is going to be something, and then next thing you know, here comes Eric Anders, right? And I've known Jason for a number of years now. So this Jalen Turner kid is making his UFC debut, and this is one of his talents. And I am telling you, it's hard for me to say because this is a UFC debut, for anyone making that first walk up to this big stage, and for this kid to be doing it in the biggest card of the year, quite possibly actually the biggest card ever, right? Let's say he's making his UFC debut on a card like this one. It's tough, man. I mean, it's a little bit like Aaron Pico fighting his first fight, and there's just jitters that come with that.
Good point.
So in terms of a talent, win or lose, I think Jalen Turner is somebody that a lot of people are going to need to pay attention to. This is a kid who's sparred, who's been in there with people like John Jones and other talent. I think there's such a high upside to this Jalen Turner kid. He's 6'3". He's so young. He really fights at the 155 division. So this was just one of those matches that got made, and he's making his UFC debut in a division that he's not even on. He's going above the division. He's fighting at 170, which isn't his normal division, but because he took it at such a last-minute type scenario, who wouldn't want to take a chance like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very high on that kid, Jalen Turner. And Vicente Luque to be the match. Oh, bro. Vicente Luque is good, man. He is the silent assassin. I'm a fan of how good this kid is. He is I don't want to say he's underrated because he's been in some big wins and he's been in some great stage, but this kid, I mean, did you watch how he finished Chad Lepre?
Oh yeah.
Left hook, sneaky. Then he does that. I believe he pull off that Darce on Nico Price, but he was beating Nico Price up with the striking, and even with like the Leon Edwards fight. I mean, Leon Edwards is good,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a really, really entertaining fight. And then I know it was 2 years ago, but he knocked out Bilal Muhammad, and
that was the most impressive one too, man.
Really good.
Exactly. Yep.
So this is what I mean is it's like, man, you want to talk about a showstopper? This Vicente Luque kid is a good fight. I mean, great, very good striker. He times his strikes well. He's very patient. He obviously has a lot of experience, already having had 20 professional mixed martial arts fight. He is good at submitting. Also, he's good all around. His striking style is again, I would have to say, is more advanced than Jalen Turner's. I just think that with Jalen Turner in a fight like this, it's one of those where I'm the rookie going into the NBA, and these veterans are going to try to push me down. So what the heck? I'm going to put on a show. you know, and it could be like that. It could be, he could end up being like that player in this game, kind of like a Ben Simmons, right? Where you have a lot of talent, you're not fully developed quite yet for the NBA, but you're definitely NBA ready. And I believe Jalen Turner is definitely big time ready. So what excites me about watching this fight and why it's kind of a sleeper fight for me is it's almost a question mark of how this fight will end up is however Jalen Turner wants it to be. I think we already know what Vicente Luque is all about. And I believe that Vicente Luque is looking for a finish. And because he's looking for a finish, the question we're going to ask ourselves is, well, what's Turner going to do? It's not even his division. He's moving up to weight that's higher than his normal weight class. This is the big stage. He's super young. What's he going to do? And I'm banking on Jason House's ability to always give us these Eric Anders type talents. And I think Jalen Turner is one of them. I watched Jalen Turner in Bellator. I think one of his best fights, if you guys want to watch it, is his Bellator performance. I think it was Bellator 170, but I think he also fought in Bellator earlier this year. I'm pulling. I know it's crazy. It sounds nuts, man. Probably, if you looked at the betting odds for me, it's going to say you're crazy, Angelo. But I'm going Jalen Turner on this one. I'm going to say sleeper fight. Going to be fight of the night. And I'm pulling Jalen Turner. What the heck? Jalen Turner for a knockout victory is what I'll say. I know it's crazy. It probably won't end up that way. I think it's just going to end up probably going to distance, and it's going to be, a heck of a fight of the night. So that's who my sleeper pick is.
Yeah, that's a great fight, man. I mean, Jalen Turner, he's an intriguing talent. His nickname is the Tarantula, and it's very fitting because he used to own over 200 of them. He actually only owns 50 of them now. But, yeah, very fitting name, very, very great talent. And you're right, man, that fight is intriguing because you got a guy in Luque who we know what he's capable of, and you got a guy in Turner who some people are saying this kid could be the future of the division. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. But I'm going to go with Turner here, too. I like Turner. I like Turner in this fight. I think the kid's special. He's young, and I like where he is. And then another fight to watch. It's actually the very first fight of the night. Ryan LaFleur taking on Tony Martin. It's a 170-pound matchup. Tony Martin, this is his second fight at welterweight. He looked great in his debut at that division. And should be interesting to see here because LaFleur is 14-2. He is a handful at welterweight. So if Tony could come in here and get a W and look good, then he belongs where he is in the welterweight division. So I just kind of want to see how that plays out.
Oh man, this is on the Fight Pass, right? So everybody would have to get on UFC Fight Pass to watch this one. You're right, man. This is like the first fight of the night. What would be fun, actually, now that you said that, is so you're picking Tony Martin to win this fight, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't know because if push comes to shove, I'm probably going to pick Ryan LaFleur to win. But I want to see, I want to see how Martin looks because he looked great in his division debut. And I just don't know. Martin's a very small welterweight, so I just want to see how he can handle a guy like LaFleur, who is a legit welterweight. What
I was going to say is, if I get lucky and I'm right in that maybe Jalen Turner pulls off the upset, I wouldn't mind seeing Jalen Turner fight one of these guys next,
and
either Ryan LaFleur or
that's a perfect
Tony
matchup.
Martin. I think that would be a fun fight. I think that would be fun. So, like I said, this is what I mean about a card like this that's so stacked that the first fight on Fight Pass is fun. So great pickup there. Great pickup there, Mike. That's awesome. Now, before we end, man, I got to ask you this, and I know we've been talking for a little bit, but has there been any breaking news of anything crazy of, like, the main event getting canceled, or if we hear anything like that right now, is it all just rumors and lies?
Yeah, I believe it's all just rumors and lies, man. The weigh-ins happened earlier today. Everything went good. Probably the biggest bit of surprising information was Khabib Nurmagomedov. All the speculation was about if Khabib was going to make weight, right? Well, he put all the worries to rest right away. He was the very first fighter to weigh in. He hit championship weight, 155 pounds. Everybody on the main card made weight. I believe everybody on the entire night of fights made weight. So we're all good, man, the whole way through. So knock on wood.
Awesome.
We're good.
No controversies.
Nope.
No controversies. So guys, man, grab your wallets on this one. Buy the Fight Pass or the trial. Watch that. You're going to see great fights there. If you don't want to do that one, turn on FS1, watch those fights, and then break out some bank, man. Break out some money and watch this main card. This main card is definitely worth the price of admission.
It's going to be exciting, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we're gonna call each other back, right? And we're going to get to do the whole I told you so's.
Yeah, for sure. We got to, right?
That's funny. That's funny.
Well,
right,
I appreciate you doing this, Angelo.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to talk to you, Mike, and keep doing your thing. One of these days, you got to get out here to one of these big events.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'll hit you up when I'm out there. You know I will.